period 4 or 5. It's Mr. Fink. Just going through the reading from 2 weeks ago, I guess now, for the very first reading of Romeo and Juliet. So what I think I'm going to do when I assign you a reading is I'm going to try to use this Actively Learn, which is brand new for me, and it's brand new for you. I hope it's helping. But what I'm going to try to do is when I assign a reading the next week, what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to watch a video of me sort of explaining things and going through the answers and look and showing you how the class answered as a whole. I won't be calling out individual people or anything like that, but you'll just be able to look back, and I would like to look back at your response to see what you said, because it will have been a week, and now it'll be 2 weeks that you won't have remembered probably what you wrote down. So I'm going to try to just fill in some gaps here. It is probably our hardest book that we will read this year, and unfortunately we have to do it under these circumstances, but we're trying to make it work as best as we can. All right, so we read the prologue here. This is just a fun thing. I'm just going to skip through that. And the question I always get is, well, why would Shakespeare give us the ending? Okay, the fact that Romeo and Juliet are going to die. Why do they give us the ending before it even starts? It's kind of like, you know where you're going, but you don't know how you get there. And that's what this line right here sort of says. The 2 hours traffic of our stage is how we get from the very beginning, where, spoiler, Romeo and Juliet don't even know each other, to the end, them being married and then them dying. So that's pretty much what the whole play is about, is it's giving you the ending, but how did we get there? All right, so looking at this, question 2, since we skipped 1, says the prologue gives a summary of the play and tells us how the story will end. Which statement best summarizes how the story will end? And 2/3 of you got that the deaths of two lovers will end a feud between the families, and the other half of you, or third of you, was split between these two. It's not about there, and a lot of people think it is. It's not about the parents keeping their kids apart. That's not what Romeo and Juliet's about. And then deaths don't cause the feud. The feud is already going on, and that's indicated if you go back up here. Okay, that's saying that's an ancient grudge. It's been around for a while. Okay, maybe generations. Great grandparents of Romeo and Juliet may have been fighting with one another. So this is the correct answer. So go back and just take a look and see what you said. All right, moving on to the next section here. Let's do this. This is an opinion question, so we're going to skip through this. Okay. Then we get these two guys, Samson and Gregory, kind of low-level guys in the story. You're not going to see them again. And fourth question, what's the tone of the conversation between Gregory and Samson? And I was really happy to see that almost all of you, 83% of you, said that it was humorous and violent. And it is very violent. And you can tell that they're laughing a bunch of the times as well. They talk about cutting off people's heads. They talk about pushing people right here up against a wall. That's referencing rape. So obviously pretty violent. They talk about striking each other, so on and so forth. And they're laughing. And if you listen to the audiobook while you're reading it, like I suggested, you'll probably hear the actors laughing throughout because they think it's really funny, because their mortal enemy, and they think it's really, really funny. But that's obviously not. So that's the tone, right? They're humorous and violent. So that was really, really happy to hear that. You guys got that right. All right, let's skip down here. The feud's getting worse and worse and worse. I forgot to mention my favorite part up here, where they're talking about biting their thumb. And I kind of didn't get a chance to talk about this in class, obviously, but biting your thumb back then was essentially like giving someone the middle finger. So when these two are giving the middle finger, essentially, to the other two, they're saying, oh, well, you know what? Like, the heck with you. I don't really like you either. So that's what the whole biting the thumb is. All right, and Benvolio comes in. And then another guy named Tybalt comes in. And the fight, the little battle, is not just the low-level guys anymore. Now it's getting into the main characters. So this question, people did okay. 2/3 of you got it right. But the question was, which statement best summarizes how Benvolio and Tybalt serve as foils for each other in this scene? Now, maybe you didn't understand what the word foils meant other than, tinfoil or something like that. Foils are people in a story that are working for opposite goals. So the classic example would be the protagonist and the antagonist. They're foils for each other. One wants one thing and one wants the complete opposite. So those two are foils. Now, if you read this, and it gives you the explanation right here, so you can read it to yourself. But when Benvolio comes in, he trying to break up this fight. It's escalating a little too quickly. He's trying to break it up. And Tybalt is actually trying to keep it going, keep the fight going. So I said about 2/3 of you said it was this, which is correct. Tybalt is seeking conflict, Benvolio is seeking peace, and the other two flipped them. I don't know if you or the other third, of you guys flipped them. I don't know if you just forgot characters, mixed them up, but just reread that. Just make sure you understand that's what's happening. And you'll notice throughout the play, Benvolio is a very, very honest, noble sort of character. Tybalt is not. And then it gets out of hand even more. It gets really bad. The prince has to come out, and the prince has to stop this feud from happening. And the prince says, if you ever disturb our streets again, your lives shall pay the forfeit of the peace. Whoever disturbs the peace again, whoever fights again, I am going to kill them. Okay, this is the third time. If it happens again, that's it. We skip down. Everybody leaves except for Montague, Lady Montague, that's Romeo's parents, and Benvolio, who is Romeo's cousin that we're going to find out. Now, this is talking about, have you seen Romeo lately? And it's asking about time. Okay. And again, maybe a little bit less than I would have liked, but he's talking about an hour before the worshipped sun peered forth the golden window of the east. Well, where does the sun rise? The sun rises in the east. So this is an hour before the sun rises. So we're talking about the morning before the sun rises. Okay. That's the last time he saw Romeo. Okay. And what was Romeo doing? Well, he was hiding. Okay. He stole into the covert of the wood. So Benvolio didn't sleep. He was walking around and he happened to see Romeo, and Romeo ran away when he saw him. And this is his cousin. Why would he run away from his cousin? Okay. And his father, Romeo's father, Montague, says, you know what? It's been like that many a morning. He's been doing that. And his tears were augmenting the fresh morning's dew. He's been crying nonstop. Okay. And then when the sun comes up, okay, he comes home, goes to his private chamber, pens himself. That means he locks the door, shuts the windows, locks fair daylight out, makes himself an artificial night. Okay. He's depressed. Okay. He's locking himself in. He doesn't want to talk to anyone. He doesn't want to see anyone. He doesn't even want daylight. Why is he depressed? Okay. And then we get to this question, which again, about 3/4 of you got right, which I'm happy about. How's Romeo feeling? Well, he's feeling kind of depressed. Okay. When you're feeling depressed, you don't talk to anybody. So, again, happy to see that majority of you thought the correct answer, that he was sad. And then Benvolio says, well, do you know why? And Montague says, nope, I got no idea. Well, Benvolio says, that will be my mission. I will find out for you what is going on. And Romeo just happens to walk on stage for the first time. So they're talking and they're trying to figure out why he's so depressed. And it keeps going on. When we get to this thing, you may not have known this term, antithesis. Okay, but you know the prefix anti. You definitely know the word oxymoron. And he spits out these oxymorons here. Heavy lightness, serious vanity, feather of lead, bright smoke, cold fire, sick health, still waking sleep. Okay, an oxymoron is confusing, especially if you're someone who doesn't speak English as their first language. Oxymorons are really, really hard to describe to somebody. Okay, so when someone's describing the way that they're feeling with oxymorons, that's really the question. What does Romeo's use of antithesis and oxymoron suggest about his current state of mind? How's he feeling? Okay. Again, majority of you was pretty close almost, but 50% said Romeo is overwhelmed by his own feelings and what's going on with him. He's so confused. Okay. This is true. He is in love, but I think the overwhelming feeling is that he's sort of these contrasting feelings. He's confused as to why, and we're going to find out in a few minutes, why this girl doesn't love him. He doesn't understand it. Okay. And that's why he's sort of overwhelmed by all of this. So that's the correct answer with that one. And we go down. Okay. This is just an opinion question. Who is it that you love? Most of you think it's Juliet. We're not going to find out that is yet for another 2 scenes. So you'll read that this week, who it actually is. But 83% of you thought it was Juliet. And where we find out why he's confused. Okay. She'll not be hit with Cupid's arrow. We know Cupid, reference, I love her. She doesn't love me back. She doesn't reciprocate the love that I have for her. And he cannot figure it out. She's beautiful. He's talking about her. She's rich in beauty and all this other stuff. He doesn't understand why she doesn't like him. So here's the end right here. And Benvolio's advice to him is, okay, buddy, you can be sad, but examine other beauties. You've heard the phrase before, there are plenty of fish in the sea. There's plenty of other people. You can be sad for a little bit, but you have to get over it. There are plenty of other women or men out there who you could be in a relationship with. And Romeo says, nope, I only love her, so on and so forth. But he says, I don't want anybody else. Okay. And Romeo ends with, thou canst not teach me to forget. You can't make me forget that there's this other girl that I like. Always going to constantly be comparing the old girl to the new girl. Benvolio says, I will promise you that I will make you forget or I'll die in debt. Okay. And then this last question was just like, did everyone, who would be your buddy? Who would you be friends with? I think I'd probably pick Benvolio. He's a pretty honest person. He's trying to help Romeo, but he's kind of getting stonewalled a little bit. So, like I said, I think this is how it's going to go. I'm going to give you a reading. You'll read it, and then the next week,